So this year has been quite the roller coaster for the Warriors. After going to 5 straight finals, they lost KD, lost Iguodala, lost majority of their bench, Klay Thompson missed the entire season, Steph Curry broke his hand, and the entire roster has been changing throughout the year. Although there is the expectation that everything will turn around once their stars get healthy next season, there are still plenty of holes in this Warriors roster that need to be addressed if they want to become serious title contenders again. With their core of Steph, Klay, and Draymond getting older now, their window isn't as wide as it once was, and the rest of the league has gotten so much better than they were when the Warriors dynasty started. I'm going to narrow it down to 3 key things that the Warriors need to fix before next season. The first major thing that needs to be improved upon is defense. I don't know about you guys, but I actually watched the Warriors this season, and their defense was absolutely atrocious, which is completely understandable given the roster that was playing. Taking a look at the numbers, this Warriors team was easily the worst defensive team in the league this year. They had a defensive rating of 113.8, which is 26th in the league, and they allowed 115 points per game by their opponents. During their 5 straight trips to the finals, the Warriors were typically a top 5 defense during the playoffs, with a few years being the best defense and best offense in the league. As the saying goes, defense wins championships. The Warriors used to be strong with Iguodala, Bogut, Klay, and Draymond all making all defensive teams during their last 5 years, with solid defenders like Harrison Barnes and Kevin Durant too. Now they don't really have too many great defenders. Draymond has regressed a bit, and Klay's lateral movement may be seriously compromised by his torn ACL. So who should they add to the roster? They're going to need some wing defense and some good defensive guards who can take the pressure off of Steph Curry. The free agent market is pretty bare right now, so the Warriors' best bet is developing their existing players or looking at the draft for some defenders that can contribute immediately. Wiggins was looking promising as a serviceable wing defender in his minutes with the Warriors. If he can become a consistent wing defender or at least have a good defensive IQ, he can make up for some of the holes in this team defensively. Wiggins is the X factor in this operation in my opinion. He's going to be guarding the Kawhis, Paul Georges, and LeBrons of the world, and if he's not at least decent, the Warriors are going to have a hard time winning playoff games. To round out the roster, I think the Warriors should try and get Glenn Robinson III on a vet min. He's not a crazy good defender, but he was serviceable for the Warriors when he was there. When we took a look at the draft, Onyeka Okongwu is likely the best defender for the Warriors in the lottery. He's similar to Bam Adebayo in the sense that he has the versatility to guard 5 positions, while being a good shot blocker and possessing strong defensive instincts as well. He could be a good addition to the Warriors and alleviate some of the defensive pressure from Draymond Green. If the Warriors are looking for veteran options, Paul Millsap is expiring with Denver, and there's a chance that he could come to the Warriors as a vet. He's an okay defender, and he'd be able to serve as a defensive mentor to some of the young guys. These moves would likely see Kai Bowman and Juan Toscano-Anderson having to get moved elsewhere, but with the way the roster is currently, it's desperately needed. If the young guys like Pascal and Chris can continue to develop on the defensive end, the Warriors should at least be able to rise up the defensive ranks in the league, instead of basically being dead last in the league in offense and defense. The second biggest thing this Warriors team needs to address is their center rotation. During their dynasty run, the Warriors always had one glaring weakness: their center rotation. They got away with it because their core guys were so good. Now their core is older, more injury-riddled, and their bench isn't as strong as it used to be. As of right now, the Warriors have Looney and Chris as their main centers. Chris showed promise this season, averaging around 9 points and 6 rebounds in 59 games with the Warriors, but I'm personally still not entirely convinced that he can be the starting center for the Warriors. He was improving as a shot blocker and developing more defensive instincts, but I think the Warriors need a bigger body center that can take hard screens and protect the rim. Looney is a huge question mark. He only played 20 games with neuropathy issues and lingering hip issues. He's had hip problems since before he was even drafted, and his health has always been an issue with the Warriors. Kevon Looney has never played more than 30 minutes in an NBA game, and there's concerns about his body holding up in the long term. I hate to say it, but the Warriors may have to depart from Looney in the future. They still owe him $10 million, and it may not be worthwhile to keep him if he continues to be hurt. For possible targets, there's Gasol and Aaron Baines as the key targets. While I think Gasol would help with the Warriors with what they're looking for in a big man, he's going to be 36 next season, and he's been dealing with injuries recently. If the Raptors make a deep playoff run, I could see Gasol staying there unless they can't afford to keep him. Baines would be a perfect fit for the Warriors. He's a big body center that can take hard screens for shooters, protect the rim effectively, and he's shown that he can stretch the floor this season. I mean, he dropped 37 points in a game with 9 threes this season. He's an unrestricted free agent this offseason, and he may get larger offers from other teams, but the Warriors can use their mid-level exception on him, and if they really want him, they can use their Iguodala trade exception as well. There's also the option of drafting James Wiseman, but I don't see the Warriors doing that personally. He's pretty raw, and he's considered to be a bit of a project. While he could be the best center in this draft, the Warriors aren't looking for a project right now, since the window for contention with their core is starting to close. They also have to pay him a larger contract since their pick will be top 5, so I just can't see the Warriors spending extra money on a raw project. I believe getting Baines and splitting minutes with Chris would be the best option for the Warriors. The third biggest thing the Warriors need to address is their overall roster depth. If we take a look at the depth chart for the Warriors right now, it's looking pretty thin at the shooting guard spot and the small forward position. On top of everything else I've said in this video so far, the Warriors desperately need some wing depth. Personally, I think Bowman, Lee, and Toscano Anderson either need to go or somehow get converted back to two-way contracts. The Warriors really need another playmaker when Curry goes to the bench. Although they have Poole, he's still developing, and his rookie year was pretty up and down. I've seen Dragic's name floating around, and he'd be a solid addition to the Warriors if they can get him on a cheap deal. He's a bit older though, but he's not too far removed from being an all-star like 2 or 3 seasons ago. If they can't get him, then I guess keep Bowman as a third-string point guard, draft Anthony Edwards if they get the first pick, and move Michael Mulder to the third-string shooting guard position, and keep Damian Lee on a two-way deal. As for the small forward position, the Warriors have a few options. They can either try and trade down for a couple picks outside of the lottery, or use their trade exception on a guy like Rudy Gay. For the pick situation, they could try and draft Saddiq Bey in the 20s range, or early second round if he's still there. Bey is a long 6'8" forward that can serve as a solid 3-and-D guy off the bench. He's got a long wingspan, a solid outside shot, and he's shown that he can be a good defender for his position. He would be valuable off the bench, and he's already played with Eric Paschall, so there's some chemistry there already. The other option is Rudy Gay. The Warriors could use their trade exception on him and package a deal with the Spurs, since Gay makes less than the full trade exception value. He only played like 21.5 minutes a game with the Spurs this season. He might be a bit of an overpay for the Warriors since he's 35 years old, but he can help with their wing depth, and he has some playoff experience as well. If I were to make my ideal Warriors depth chart, it would look like this. So we have a pretty well-rounded roster, I think. You got Anthony Edwards in the draft. Michael Mulder is a solid shooter who could be a third-string shooting guard. Rudy Gay as your second-string small forward. Then Glenn Robinson III or Saddiq Bey if they get the trade picks. And then the power forward position, Eric Paschall and Draymond Green can split minutes. Alen Smailagić is still a bit of a project, so I don't really expect him to play at all next season. And then you have Aaron Baines as your starting center with the mid-level exception. Marquise Chris would probably split minutes with Aaron Baines as a starter. And then Kevon Looney would be the third string because he has injury issues and he hasn't played in quite a long time. He's only played 20 games this season, and his health's always a big question mark. This roster looks a lot more polished than what they have right now, and I think a lot of these moves could be realistically made. The only problem is they have a lot of guaranteed deals that I don't think they can move. It would be tough to get this roster, but it is technically possible, I think. If the Warriors make any moves similar to these, they'd be right up there with the Lakers, Bucks, Raptors, and Clippers. Well, that's all for this one, guys. What do you think? Can the Warriors actually make this roster happen? Comment your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next video.